as you may know, Greenpeace Brazil launched their website with the new information architecture last year in April. They have also done a really beautiful Medium post to share their experience about the process. So whenever you have some time or if you're interested in learning more, there is a link in the presentation. As Danny already mentioned, Greenpeace Nordics are launching their new information architecture. So basically, they've launched with Finland and Norway first. So only like the MVP phase is live at the moment. So basically, including the new taxonomy, the Get Informed page with the high level and deep dive topic pages. And then the Take Action and all the About Us pages should be live around March. Greenpeace Luxembourg will launch in Q2 or like Q1 or Q2, hopefully this year. And MVP development phase, is done from the Planet 4 team side. So that's a great thing. And the V2 phase is planned for Q2 or Q3 this year. So these are basically all of the big different phases from this project. So the biggest one will be to actually prepare everything before the deployment phase. So yeah, this phase will be like will take more time because you will have to prepare a lot of things in advance, like define your goals, your project team, perform a content inventory, do a SEO audit and everything. But I'm gonna explain in a few minutes like all of these steps. So normally this phase should take around 3 months. Then there will be like the deployment phase. So basically like the hands-on practice to actually go live. So this will be around 1 month, or it can also take less than that, depending on your team capacity and your own timelines. And then there will be the analysis phase once all of the new site is launched. That should take around like 1 to 2 months to analyze. So where to start, basically? So the preparatory phase has a lot of activities, including both Planet 4 and NRO's efforts, in order to define like the scope, the objectives, as well as collecting like the maximum of insights that will lead your team to the deployment phase. So we have prepared an Asana project template that you can use for your project. You can just like, if you use Asana, just copy this template. I'm gonna show you quickly how it looks like. Can you see like the Asana page? Just to present you how it looks like. Okay, so we have like the different phases basically with like the big steps of the project. So if you are not familiar with Asana, we can help you with setting that up for your team. So we have prepared this as a basics for your project. Then the idea for the kickoff phase will be the very first thing to do if you're interested in being part of the next cohort will be to actually sign up. So the Planet 4 team knows which NROs are interested in joining this project, when, etc. And then we will send you a preliminary questionnaire so we can better assess your needs based on that. Then we will invite you to a project briefing call. And then the idea will be to, from there, actually build up your project team, define your goals and your own timeline. So that's basically like the kickoff phase. And then when serious things start to begin is around like the content inventory. So we highly recommend to do a content inventory to analyze like the depth and the breadth of your content, followed by a content audit that is more around assessing the quality of your content. So basically, this will help you identify all of the existing problems that you have in your site, all of the gaps that need to be filled, and the future opportunities. So for that, the Planet 4 team can get you started by exporting your site content and also providing you providing like a content edit and inventory template. So we have a lot of tools already prepared for that that can help you get started with that. We also provide like a mapping of your current taxonomy and sitemap, again, to assess like where you're at, if we can identify like some specific issues, redundancies, etc. So you can see some mapping examples that we have done with the pilot and errors so far. And then we highly recommend that you do a SEO audit that is very crucial. So then this audit will give you in-depth analysis of the current state of your site and how it has performed over the last year in terms of traffic, keywords, top queries, conversion rates, etc. And yeah, Danny, if you want to, or Svilena, if you want to jump in to explain a little bit how you've done the SEO audits, feel free to do so.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, where to start? This was a bigger a bigger task than we initially thought. The way we handled it, at least, but that's because we are, of course, we're doing it for 4 countries pretty much at once. But it was very interesting. It's been for a long time. It's been on our list that we wanted to assess like how we're performing. How can we increase organic traffic? You know, pretty much all the offices have some form of lead, like focus on lead generation and all that. Whereas organic traffic is like something that kind of works for itself once you really get down to it. In our case, we did like competitor analysis and all that to start with. So we hired one agency to cover 2 of the countries and another to cover the rest. And we found that we were like underperforming quite a bit compared to some of our key competitors in each country. And mostly just due to our way of writing. We found that for example, we're writing very internally. So for keyword combinations or long tail keywords, where Greenpeace was a part of it. So people were searching on Google for Greenpeace climate change. Then we rank quite high. But if you would search on just climate change, then the ranking was completely different, and we were outranked by names that you'll know like WWF, etc. So this was a good initiator for us, and then actually got a lot of people on board that otherwise were not familiar with SEO. Obviously, not everyone was. We had to explain the acronym quite a bit, and then really say like why is this important, and we kind of put it in the context of imagine that you're doing an action out on the streets. There's a lot of people seeing it, and everyone gets that message. It's great. You have a lot to communicate in that moment. But imagine now that same picture, but then streets empty and no one to really see your message. So a lot of that effort, a lot of that communication that just goes unheard. So yeah, it went beyond that. Eventually, we did together with GPI as well. We did a bit of a writing for the web workshop. We followed up on that with some more in-depth national focus workshops. And you can expand it, I guess, to as much as you want. For us, we're now going into the direction of establishing this as something that we want to really embed in all the roles that do any kind of content writing, especially on our website, but also on other online platforms. Kind of starting to see it as a bit of a native skill that we should wield more proactively. So I think I'll keep it at that. Anyway.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, so basically, it will be also up to you to decide whether you would like to perform this audit internally with your own team. So it could be like something with the minimum requirements for the SEO audits, or to hire, as Greenpeace Nordics did, like SEO experts with an agency. But yes, it really depends on your goals as well. So it could differ from one NRO to another, of course. So once you've done with all of these steps, and the order is not like predefined. So, but we recommend that you do also content strategy and defining like what content strategy means for your office. And this step is actually not mandatory, but this is something that we can help with at GPI. But basically, if your office needs some guidance on how to connect the dots between different teams, such as comms, campaigns, fundraising, digital, when it comes to content strategy for your website, we can definitely help. And we can provide like a series of workshops, like an introduction to content strategy, or you can do that in your office. What tools can be offered for that, and how to measure success. We also have like a workshop about like a content ecosystem map, like mapping your content, all of the roles, responsibilities, and systems, and how they are connected. There is also like something around content strategy, maturity model to assess and improve like organizational processes and how your content is being published on your website. And to answer like all of the fundamental questions, such as providing the right content to the right people at the right time and the right place. And we also have something around tools and methodologies. So when you would like to maybe write up some user stories, content prioritization, content design requirements, voice and tone guidelines, things like that. So again, all of this content strategy package is optional, but you know that it's here in case. Then a very critical step is to actually define your new ontology and taxonomy. So by ontology, I mean naming things internally. So how you name like all of your content types, page types, etc. So it's meant for internal use only, but it's to make sure that everyone speaks the same language. And also all these new page types and content types work together. So this is the ontology, and we'll provide like a 2 hours workshop for that. And we have also at least 2 taxonomy workshops, because taxonomy, is quite complicated when you want to rename and retagging everything. So basically, taxonomy is about also building a controlled vocabulary that will be used and seen externally by your website visitors. So basically, how you name a topic, how you name a specific page, etc. So yes, just a quick example of like how a taxonomy workshop would look like. And Danny and Vilena, again, if you want to jump in on this part, because I know that it was a very critical one, especially for handling taxonomy for 4 different websites.
Yeah, that was, I think, the most crucial part of the whole process, because then the teams actually got to think about everything that they're planning to work with in the future, so that this is a time when you also are handling all of the legacy content. So it really was the turning point when I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, Old, where things got clear, how the pieces match with each other, and how do we connect all the different topics that we talk about in the way that it's structured, following the new informational architecture, so that it makes it easier and better for finding for our readers. And generally we had, I don't know how many hours, maybe about the amount of hours that you have scheduled here, but that was a lot of back and forth and revising the content. And when actually we got to updating the already existing content based on our content inventory, we realized that some things could have been done slightly differently. So we had to again revise. So this is a living organism that really is the central point of the whole work. So it should not be overlooked. Definitely, this has gotten the biggest impact on how we frame our content strategy. And don't forget redirections when you're moving things, renaming things, killing things. Do not forget redirections so you don't have broken pages.
Really that clear, and we worked quite a lot with, particularly with the taxonomy, and we struggled with some parts where to put them in the taxonomy. And then later on also when we had the taxonomy in place, so it was actually also surprising to see when we started to write the high level and deep dive topics that how much content we actually lacked, basic content that we thought that was should have been there already, but actually it wasn't. So yeah, but the taxonomy workshop, it's actually it's worth using some time for it and really think it through.
Yes,
Thanks,
if I
Eva.
may add to that, the SEO again played a very big part when we were holding the workshops, because we were trying to leverage on any terminology that already is picking up well and has a good search volume, but also to not go further away from how we speak about things, where to prefer more general naming conventions or whether to use something a little bit more specific, but also to not have duplicates. I think this was the hardest thing for everyone to grasp, how to make all that work when you have to use different words talking for the same thing. So you really need to be aware of the essence of the content that you're writing and what is your long-term goal about the topics that you will be writing. So yeah, this was a very enlightening part of the whole process, if I may say so.
Sure. Yeah, so the SEO was mentioned here already. I'll just reiterate that that internal versus external kind of thinking was really apparent here as well. Like we started out with the ontology and taxonomy thinking in smaller groups, because obviously this is, you'll quickly find that a lot of people have opinions on this, and some of them are more informed than others. So like having a sort of a core group at first helps build sort of that fundamental the fundamental understanding to then bring forward to a bigger group and really start workshopping together. But we found that the first couple of drafts that we made of this were very internal. We just called everything that was related to climate. Then you get this catch-all phrase that where all the content disappears under, perhaps. And we just said oceans, forests. It was kind of like, I don't know if the terminology is still used on a global level, but just like our baskets are typical. And that's not how people search. This is not how people would find us. They're not using those words. They're having different search intents. They're just searching for a combination of words. So this is all considerations that came to light here. I think during the process, and Selena is doing, running currently Denmark through that process, and you'll also see that while you get further in this process, you'll slightly come back to the taxonomy a little bit, and then I'm more talking about the exact naming of things, or exactly where a deep dive topic sits under a high level topic, because you start visualizing and seeing exactly where it sits on the website, and then it starts perhaps making a bit more sense. So I think these workshops are indeed good to spend time on, and to sort of really strive to get to a final taxonomy, a final decision on it before actually starting to write the content, and then shuffling it around and figuring out the tags. But it's probably at least realistic to assume that there may be some alterations towards that part still, because people will start getting more insights and a better understanding of it by that. So back to you, Magali.
If I can just add one last thing. Sure. I believe the question that I've asked the most everyone whenever we were talking, especially about the tax, which was one of the difficult parts, is do you have enough content for that? So this became like a mantra of sorts. Do you have enough content? Because it's very easy to go down the path when you get very granular, and then you think you want to catch everything that you write about, but then in the end you don't have enough content for it. So I think this is applicable for the high levels, for deep dives, for whenever you want to define something new, just ask yourself, do you have enough content for that?
Thanks, Milena. Yeah, that's a very relevant point. And also, I would like to add to that like, bear in mind that the taxonomy is not just a one-shot workshop. It should be like a living entity and well documented that should be maintained over time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that also helps you in the sense that assigning roles and responsibilities to what content, like which content should be owned by this team or this person. So if you want to say a word about it, maybe Sweden or Danny or you are.
Yeah, sure. So this goes a bit into your next slides where the success metrics and everything come in as well. But for example, during the SEO phase, there's a lot of these KPIs, these metrics, these data points that you're going to be looking at. And of course, in order to deliver on those, you need those to be, someone needs to be responsible for them. But similarly to keeping your content up to date, so also eventually to perform, someone needs to sort of have an area that they make sure always adheres to the taxonomy. So for example, do you have a couple of tags that belong to a certain high level or a certain deep dive topic? Then that needs to be those tags need to be used properly, and content needs to be tagged in the right places and not show up everywhere on the website. So there's some rules there that there's an overall overview, but the way we're using it now as well is that I think we're trying per high level topic to assign someone like, okay, this is your area on the website, and naturally where it kind of falls naturally with people that work with this area most of the time, and maybe not all the deep dives per se, but so they have an understanding of how this ideally should look, and then they go around and ping people to make any changes needed. It's not like all the work falls on them either.
Thanks, Danny. All right. After ontology and taxonomy, ideally, that would be great if your team can define some success criteria and also a testing plan. But more specifically for the success criteria. So circling back to like the main pain points identified for your site, as well as also the internal processes that you would like to improve. So you can define what success would look like after making all of these changes. That's very important. And after that, if you want to test like some assumptions, such as for your navigation, for your new taxonomy, the P4 team can also help you by running some tests, such as like a tree test or usability testing, if you have some time to do that, of course. Not optional and not mandatory again. So after all of this, ideally, you should have like a project deployment plan ready. With like a solid timeline for the content, like from the content creation phase to the analysis phase. So you would have like a better overview of like when things should be done from like your team, but also from the P4 team. And you can also from there define like how you will break your changes up into different phases. So for instance, Brazil, the MVP was quite big, whereas Nordics, they just decided to launch only like the get informed, high level and deep dive topic pages, and go live later on with all of the action pages. So it's really depending on your objectives, and that could be different. Then also a big phase to be done is to actually write up your new content. So the Planet 4 team, as mentioned by Danny, can provide a writing for the web workshop. Again, in order to provide some guidance for your teams on how to best write optimized content for your website. And then you can invite like all relevant people who are likely to write content, as well as digital campaigners, etc. And once you are ready to dive into content creation, we will also help you by providing you some content page templates for your new pages to be just like duplicated and filled out. You can also do it your way, but you have a starting point from there. And then once you have like all of the new content in place, you can from there identify like needs for visuals or icons. And again, we can work with you on this part. And finally, if you have identified that you will need some new blocks or a block improvement needs, we will help, like we will work with you on that as well. So yeah, from there, how you can make it happen. So basically we have laid out here all of the steps that you should go through for the deployment phase. So basically prepare your dev site environment or your test site, because correct me if I'm wrong, Vilena, but you've decided to do everything on a test instance instead, right?
So we did the first part. We wanted to know what exactly can we fill as content requirements, because it's a lot. And then we had on one of the dev sites the layout, so that we can somehow figure out what can we use, how we can adapt what we already have, but it's present with the amount of content that we had, so that essentially we figure out where to place what we already have and make it available for the future, anything that might pop up. But then generally that was the only part where we used the dev site, because we had quite a lot of things to work with. So we figure out perhaps it's best that we just, instead of duplicating things and then moving stuff from one place to the other, to just start and work on the editor side directly on the production. And I think that was helpful, especially when you have the amount of content that we had to create, as it was for Norway. We had 6 high levels with a lot of deep dives, so that was, 50 pages maybe, that we had to create additionally. So all of that has, the deep dives, they have their own place. They have also the references to the high level topics. So it was essential that those blocks are made as reusable, so that we can cut the time a little bit on that. So small things like that, where you can, save time on this and that, would actually make quite an impact, especially with the reusable blocks. And we had to create additional sub-navigation that we coded a little bit with the use of what we already have as, the blocks that are existing and such. So there were some minor things that we adjusted to fit our case, but generally everything that we used was the layouts that were provided by you, and that was super helpful.
Thanks, Vilena. Yeah, so from there, thanks to the mighty Quentin, you can read like all of the documentation in the handbook that will also help you deploy all of the new pages and how they work with the new block patterns, etc. on your site. So you can build your new pages in the backend, migrate existing content to new pages. From there, create your new taxonomy with new categories and tags. Then assign these new categories to your high-level topic pages. And if you decide to go with like the take action pages as well, migrate this current content to the new action pages, and create also a taxonomy for the action pages, because you can assign action types also now. Then you also have to create like your new navigation menu once all of the pages are created. Then archive or delete old content, assign new categories to your existing and new post pages. So basically, if you have like tons of post pages, of course, you don't have to assign new categories to all of this, but maybe like the most important ones, or the ones that have like the most important traffic maybe. Then we have, we have a setting like in the P4 settings menu to enable all of these new features, because these are still experimental, since not all of the NROs have this new information architecture. So you will have to enable these in the P4 settings menu. And then ensure that all of the data attributes are created on your tag manager account. Create like a new trigger for each new block added, connect to the general event tag for P4 block, and of course, check the tracking in Google Analytics. So basically, all of this is like the deployment phase. But yes, Vilena, if you want to add anything else that I might have missed.
No, nothing really. That's quite spot on. We are having some additional classes that we added just so that Marie can pick up in Google Analytics when a deep dive or high level page is open, what the person is doing, are they clicking the navigation, what is of most interest, and such things. But all that, yeah, it's quite easily to be set up right with the templates and advanced settings for each block. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. And then we highly recommend that you test again before going live, because yeah, especially all of the page URLs, the redirects, yeah, everything basically that has changed. And finally, you can go live. So, and celebrate. So yeah. And then after that, comes like the analysis phase to measure whether or not all of these changes are a success. So as soon as your new site is live, you can set up like new heat maps in Hotjar to analyze like users' behavior, see where they click the most, etc. And also if you want to have like video recordings for specific pages to analyze behaviors further, you can also do that with Hotjar. And when it comes to analyzing quantitative data, we suggest that you build a Data Studio dashboard if you can do so, or we can of course help you if you don't have like the capacity internally to help visualize all of the changes and communicate the results. Then we also recommend that you run an on-site survey with Hotjar, comparing like end user responses against the previous survey that we ran some years ago. Yeah, more specifically to assess like how users interact, and this will help like uncover findability issues or confirm that users are finding the right content they are looking for. And also it will be important to send out like some internal survey to your content editors and everyone that is writing content for P4 to assess like how they are doing with the new taxonomy, like assigning new tags to their content, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the analysis phase. Then once all of that is done, I mean, once your site is live, ideally, that would be great if you can write a Medium post to share like all of the learnings. It's optional, but yeah, that would be nice. And of course, communicate about your new site internally and externally. So we have prepared a few questions in advance. So for instance, I'm sure you're wondering, like, does my office need to plan all of these activities? Because it seems like a lot. So basically, all of the steps are not mandatory to take here, as I mentioned. But yeah, it really depends on your team capacity, your own timeline, other projects that you might have also running this year. So it really depends on all of that. And what roles should be involved in the project. So ideally, so this is the like ideal list, of course, but a head of digital or someone that can sign off like all of the most important decisions on this project, as well as like a project manager or coordinator, a technical lead or a front-end developer to yeah, help integrate and build up like all of the new pages in the backend, a data analyst, and at least one representative from each team. So basically comms, campaigns, fundraisings, or everyone involved in content creation for P4. And now you are wondering, so how can my office join the next implementation cohort? So we have just put on a quick form for you if you can sign up. So it's pretty simple. It takes 2 minutes, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.